Most people spend a small amount of money every year replacing houseplants that slowly fade away. At first, everything seems fine. The leaves are green. The plant looks fresh. You water it carefully. You even move it closer to the window, hoping it will get better light. But after a few weeks, something changes. The leaves turn yellow. The edges become soft. Growth stops. And within a few months, the plant is gone. Then the cycle begins again. A new plant. The same effort. The same result. Now here is the surprising part. Some people do almost nothing, and their homes are full of healthy plants. You may have seen this yourself. A friend, a neighbor, or even a family member who waters once in a while and yet their plants seem to thrive for years. It feels confusing. It almost feels unfair. What if the problem is not that you are doing too little, but that you are doing too much? And what if there are a few simple plants that can live quietly in your home, asking for very little, and still growing steadily over time? If that sounds reassuring, it is because it is. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need daily routines. You only need to understand what these plants actually want. Before explaining why this happens, it helps to understand how these plants live in nature. Most indoor plants do not come from soft, gentle environments. They come from places where water is not always available. Some grow in dry regions where rain may not come for weeks. Others grow under thick tree cover, where sunlight is limited. Over time, these plants have adapted. They learn to store water. They learn to slow down growth. They learn to survive with less. When we bring these plants into our homes, we often forget this. We treat them as if they need constant attention. We water frequently. We adjust them often. We try to help, but in doing so, we disturb the balance they already know. This is why overwatering becomes such a common problem. The roots sit in wet soil for too long. They cannot breathe properly. Slowly, they begin to weaken. The leaves respond by turning yellow. And many people think the plant needs more water, which only makes the situation worse. Once you see this pattern, something becomes clear. The goal is not to do more. The goal is to do less, but with better timing. Some plants make this easier than others. They are naturally patient. They hold on to water. They adjust to low light. They forgive small mistakes. One of the most gentle examples is a trailing plant often placed on shelves or allowed to hang down from a pot. It grows slowly at first, then begins to stretch outward, following the space around it. This plant does not ask for much light. It does not react strongly if you forget to water for a while. In fact, it often looks its best when left alone between waterings. If you look closely, you may notice small roots forming along its stems. These are not accidents. They are part of how the plant survives. In nature, these roots would help it collect moisture from the air or attach to nearby surfaces. In a home, they simply remind us that this plant is built to adapt. Watering this plant becomes very simple once you understand it. You wait. You touch the soil. If it still feels slightly damp, you leave it. When it feels dry, you water gently, allowing excess water to drain away. Then you wait again. This quiet rhythm is often enough. Over time, you may notice something else. A small cutting placed in water begins to grow roots. Slowly, another plant forms. This is not something you need to force. It happens naturally when the plant is healthy and settled. Another plant behaves in a slightly different way. Instead of trailing outward, it grows in a rounded shape, sending out small offshoots that hang like decorations. These small offshoots are new plants forming on their own. They develop gradually, almost like a quiet continuation of the original plant. This kind of growth tells a story. It shows that the plant feels stable. It has enough energy to reproduce. And it does this without needing constant care. Its roots are thicker than many other plants. They store water, holding onto it for later use. This means the plant does not rely on frequent watering. In fact, when watered too often, it may begin to show small brown tips on its leaves. This can be confusing at first, but it is simply the plant's way of asking for less, not more. If you give it time between waterings and allow the soil to dry slightly, it usually settles back into balance. It may even begin producing more of those small offshoots, creating new plants that can be shared or replanted. As we move toward plants that store even more water, we find one that grows slowly but steadily. Its leaves are thick and glossy, almost as if they have been polished. Beneath the soil, it holds its reserves in strong, hidden structures. These act like storage units, keeping water safe for long periods. Because of this, the plant rarely needs attention. Weeks can pass without watering, and it remains calm. In some cases, even longer periods do not cause harm. This makes it especially helpful for people who prefer a low-effort routine or may not always remember a schedule. The key here is restraint. When you do water, you water thoroughly, then allow the soil to become fully dry before the next time. If you are unsure, it is often better to wait a few more days. Another interesting plant works quietly in a different way. It stands upright, with strong, structured leaves that grow in a steady pattern. It does not spread quickly. It does not demand space. It simply exists, stable and consistent. What makes it unique is how it handles air exchange. While most plants follow a daytime rhythm, this one adjusts its activity to reduce water loss. It opens itself in a way that allows it to conserve moisture, especially in dry conditions. This ability makes it very forgiving. It can live in different parts of a home, from brighter areas to more shaded corners. Its watering needs are simple. In many cases, once a month is enough. During cooler seasons, even less may be required. Here again, the main challenge is not neglect, but over-attention. Too much water, especially when the plant is not actively growing, can lead to problems. But if you allow it to rest and follow its natural pace, it remains steady for years. Finally, there is a plant that many people recognize for its thick leaves filled with gel. It grows slowly at first, then begins to form small new plants at its base. These can be separated or left to grow together, creating a fuller appearance over time. This plant stores water directly in its leaves. You can feel it when you gently press them. They are firm, almost like small reservoirs. Because of this, the plant does not need frequent watering. In fact, too much water can cause the leaves to become soft and weak. A simple routine works best. Bright, gentle light. Occasional watering when the soil has fully dried. And a container that allows excess moisture to escape easily. Over time, this plant often becomes something more than just decoration. It continues growing quietly, producing new offshoots, and remaining part of the home for many years. In some families, it is passed along from one person to another, continuing its growth across generations. When you step back and look at all of these plants together, a pattern becomes clear. They are not demanding. They are not fragile in the way many people expect. They simply follow their own pace. If you allow them that space, they respond with steady growth. 6 months can pass, and you may notice small changes. A new leaf here. A longer stem there. A small offshoot forming quietly at the base. These are not dramatic changes, but they are consistent. And over time, they add up. If you're comfortable sharing, I'm curious how often you water your plants right now. Sometimes that small habit tells us more than anything else. There is no need to rush. No need to adjust everything at once. Just begin by observing. Notice how long the soil stays moist. Notice how the leaves respond. Notice when the plant seems still, and when it begins to grow. This kind of attention is gentle. It does not require effort in the usual sense. It simply asks you to look, to pause, and to respond when needed. And as you do this, something changes. The plants become easier to care for. They begin to fit into your life, rather than asking you to change your routine for them. In time, you may find that the worry fades. The uncertainty becomes smaller. And the plants that once seemed difficult begin to feel familiar. Sometimes the garden improves when we simply step back and observe.